Okay, let's dive into a question that's so fundamental we almost never think to ask it. Why do we believe the things we believe? It sounds simple, right? But this question actually opens up a huge philosophical puzzle, something called the Agrippan trilemma. So, let's make this personal for a second. I want you to think of something you know is true. It can be anything, a scientific fact, a personal value, whatever. Got it? Now, ask yourself, why? What's your proof? And here's where it gets tricky. Whatever reason you just gave me, maybe you said because I read it in a book or because I saw it with my own eyes. Well, that reason is now a new claim, and that new claim can be challenged too. Why trust that book? How do you know your eyes weren't fooling you?
This is really the heart of the problem. We think we're answering the question, but all we're really doing is kicking the can down the road. The justification itself needs to be justified. We haven't built a solid foundation, we've just added another floor that's also standing on shaky ground.
So how in the world do you escape this endless game of why? Well, it turns out there are basically three main escape routes that philosophers have talked about for centuries. These are the three horns of the Agrippan trilemma. And the strategies themselves are actually pretty simple when you boil them down. You can either let the chain of reasons go on forever, you can have it circle back on itself, or you can just decide to stop. So let's walk through each one. First up, we have path 1. What if we just accept the chain of whys and let it run on forever? This is what we call the infinite road. The official term for this is an infinite regress. The idea is that your belief is propped up by reason A, which is propped up by reason B, which needs reason C to support it, and on and on and on, literally forever. There is no final, ultimate reason at the bottom of it all. Yep, the chain just goes on infinitely. But you can probably see the problem here, right? If the support for your belief never actually ends, if it just goes on forever, how strong can that belief really be? It's kind of like a chain that's just floating in midair, not attached to anything. Okay, so if an endless chain feels a little unsatisfying, what about another option? What if we make the chain into a loop? This brings us to path 2, the vicious circle. You've definitely heard of this one. It's circular reasoning. Instead of the chain of reasons going back forever, it eventually loops back around and points to the very thing you were trying to prove in the first place. So it works like this. You believe claim A because of claim B. Okay. And you believe B because of C. Fine. But why do you believe C? Well, because of A. You see? The whole thing just returns to itself. And that's the trap. It can feel like a solid, self-supporting structure, but there's actually nothing new or external holding it up. The argument just boils down to A is true because A is true. And, well, that's not really a justification at all, is it? All right, so going on forever feels shaky, and going in a circle is basically a logic trick. That leaves us with the third and final path. What if we just hit the brakes? This approach is called foundationalism. The idea is that the chain of whys doesn't actually go on forever, because eventually you hit a bedrock belief, something so fundamental, so obviously true, that it doesn't need any proof at all. So the chain just stops. It ends at beliefs we decide are basic or self-evident. Think about something like, I think, therefore I am, or even just, I am conscious right now. You don't prove them, they're the starting points. The big problem, of course, is, who decides what's self-evident? We might not all agree. So there you have it, our three options, the infinite road, the vicious circle, or the final stop. But it turns out there's an even deeper problem lurking underneath, and none of these paths can actually solve it. Here's the core issue. Every single one of these strategies is an attempt to use justification to prove that justification works. It's like trying to measure a ruler to see if it's accurate, but the only tool you have is that very same ruler. It's impossible. And that's the real kicker. At the end of the day, none of these paths actually work. They are all just clever ways of dodging the original question. None of them truly concludes it. We're still left without a satisfying final answer. Let's just break down exactly how they fail. The infinite path just defers the answer forever. The circular path basically assumes the answer from the very beginning. And the final stop path, it just declares that for some special beliefs, the question is irrelevant. They're all sidesteps. You can try to ignore it, but the trilemma is always there. And that's the really unsettling truth of it all. The problem itself doesn't just go away. It only waits, lurking just below the surface of everything we think we know for sure. So what does all this really mean? Well, think about it.
If any reason you give can always be met with another why, if the question can always be pushed back one more step, then no argument, no matter how good it sounds, can ever truly force you to believe something. There's always room for doubt.
And this leaves us right back where we started. With that one big question that the trilemma suggests, we might never be able to fully answer. For anything you believe, can you find a final, unshakable reason why you should believe it rather than not?
And that is the challenge the Agrippan trilemma gives to every single one of us. It's not just some abstract puzzle for philosophers. It's a mirror that forces us to look at the foundations of our own knowledge. So think back to that belief you started with. What's really holding it up? An infinite road, a circle, or a final stop?